Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery here. We get together most weekday mornings at 8 o'clock Central. Today is Thursday, February 20th, 2025. Our goal is to get together with our current and prospective resellers and talk shop, talk about strategies, techniques, success stories, support each of you. Because what you and I do is so important. Most small business owners want money. They need money to start to grow, but most of them do not have a fundable business. And that's where you and I come into play. You and I are not banks or credit unions or lenders, but we can, as technical advisors, help anyone have a fundable business legally and ethically so they can qualify for funding. So today, we're going to actually talk about funding. So we're calling this Funding 101. And I think it'll be a worthwhile discussion. At any time, if you have questions, comments, concerns, type it into the Q&A, please. So starting with Funding 101, hopefully my screen is shared with you. The very first premise that you need to understand when it comes to what you and I do together is that there are two separate phases. And if you don't separate these two, then you're not understanding how it works. So the first phase is helping a client establish fundability. So in other words, do they have a business that will get approved for a loan? Then we can go get the loan. If we don't have a fundable business, then number two won't happen. And that's actually the note here. Now we have two general ways of helping accomplish that. You and I can sell them a shelf corp, already built, already ready to go to funding, or we now have the business accelerator, which we educated on recently, and you can go back and see more trainings on shelf corps and the business accelerator program on our YouTube channel. So it starts with number one, then we can do number two. Now here's the problem. Most clients don't want number one. They just want number two. Just give me the money. Just give me the fucking money, right? That's what they're going to tell you. No, 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 no. I don't care about shelf corps. I don't care about your stinking business accelerator. You just get me some money. Well, if they don't already have a fundable business, that's not possible. Now, the truth is there's different types of funding with different underwriting criteria. But normally what we're doing is preparing clients for a multifaceted capital raise, which I'm going to go through. That's part of our agenda. But at the cornerstone, at the nucleus of that is a large term loan. We don't want to go get a bunch of credit cards that's going to pop up double-digit interest in 12 or 18 months. We want to legitimately get them qualified for a large term loan. These large term loans normally have low interest and normally 120-month, 10-year repayment term. So first, let's just make sure we're crystal clear on this two phases. We need to create fundability, then we go to funding. Any questions, comments, concerns on that? Okay, so let's move on. So we're really good at doing number one because in most of this marketplace, there's lots of loan brokers. And if you already have a fundable business, if number one is already in place, getting number two, and I'm not bragging, and I know many of you face the same thing. On an average day, I get 3 to 5 calls every damn day, people calling us, trying to get us to take funding. We don't need it, so we don't accept it. Once you have a fundable business, number two is pretty straightforward, and they'll come looking for you. And I know some of you have the same experience. Day in, day out, people are calling you, trying to loan you money. How much money could you use? If I could get you $1 million, what would you do with it? I mean, they're relentless, calling over and over and over, trying to get you to take money. But that's because you've already accomplished, like we have, number one. Most people, most small businesses aren't like you and I. Most of them don't have a fundable business, so number two is a problem. So we're really good at being technical advisors. All of us came from the SBA. This is what we did as government employees, whether that's a positive or negative, to help small businesses, and now we do it through our 501c3 nonprofit. So are we all okay on what we're saying here? Any questions? Any objections? Okay, let's move forward then. So we do more than just give it lip service. We put it in writing. Now, again, forgive me if your world's different than mine, but a lot of people will say shit, and a lot of times it's not accurate. So in our world, we want everything to be in writing, so we're held accountable. Our contracts say we guarantee we will get you funding. We guarantee it. We're obligated. We promise we'll do it. If not, we're breaching the contract. So clients don't have risk when they work with you and I, you as a reseller, through our programming. But they do need to do number one, right? Because again, we've already agreed you can't just skip number one and go right to number two. Rod's asking a question about being a fundable business. And so let me put an asterisk here and I'll insert. Thank you, Rod, for bringing that up. If any of you have not watched the 27 mistakes training video, it's on our YouTube channel. We've talked about it periodically on these daily Zooms. The 27 mistakes will tell you what keeps businesses from being fundable. So, of course, the opposite is true too. If they don't have the mistakes, then they're fundable. But at the core of having a fundable business is what you and I are providing with Shelf Corps and the Business Accelerator is, do they have a good address? Do they have an entity that's in good standing with the federal and state government? Do they have a business bank account? Do they have collateral? You see this so often. A lot of times they don't have collateral. So it's those basic elements, Rod. But if you want a full list, 27 mistakes on our YouTube channel. All right, so moving forward here. Now, as I referenced earlier in today's topic, and as we've discussed in prior trainings, we like to set up a multifaceted capital raise portfolio. Now, if the client says they don't want that, we'll do what the client wants. But normally we want to start with a large term loan. This is the largest of the four. So as we'll see in a moment in my notes, we're going to put together uses of funds. We're going to figure out what they need the money for. And then we want them to be able to identify what they want the funding for and how much. So the term loan is typically the biggest, but we prefer not to stop there. We'd also like to make sure that they have a line of credit, because a line of credit's great. If you need it, you use it. If you don't, you don't. You don't have any interest expense, but it gives some fluctuation, some additional access to capital. I believe, and this is not the focus of what we do, but I believe that every business should have at least one business credit card, right? You need a way to pay for your airline flights, your lunches at the country club, gas in your Ferrari. I mean, you're going to need incidental expenses. You don't want to be paying those personally. So the business credit card is great. So that's part of what we want to incorporate. And then lastly, most of us need transportation anyway. Why wouldn't we want to put that vehicle in our business name so it's fully tax deductible? You know, everybody wants to see proof. So yes, we've gone through and we've gotten our term loan. We show you that it works. We have our line of credit sitting right here. It's not as large as probably some of yours, but it's 45K. Yes, we've gotten the term loan. Business credit cards, yes. Business credit cards are normally going to be 10,000 to 20,000. I know they could be bigger, but that's the normal range. I'm not here trying to upsell you on how grand things can be. I'm just giving you what normally. Business automobiles, we can get multiple business automobiles, but our experience is it's hard to finance above 200,000. So what I'd recommend is each vehicle be 190 or below. I know I don't have the Lamborghini Huracan in the background today, but that's an example where everything above 190 we had to pay out of pocket. Business lenders seem to have a threshold where they typically don't want to loan more than 200,000 per car, but you can get multiple cars. So this is what we normally want to help clients accomplish. by having either a shelf corp with us or going through the business accelerator. So it's multifaceted. If that's not what they want, we'll do it the way they want, but that's the norm. All right, so then we get the question about, well, how much can I borrow? Can I borrow more than 100,000? How much can I borrow? So let's talk about amounts and the makeup of the capital raise. So as I made reference to earlier, one of the elements that we put together, which is an element of having a fundable business, is having a business plan that lists the uses of funds. So that breaks down what is it that we need the money for. I know this is amazing maybe to you, but so often we'll have people that come to us and they really don't know. They just pick a number out of their ass. It's like, oh, I need $1 million. Well, that's not going to work real well because the lender is going to want to know what is it that you're going to spend the money on. So we need to help them articulate that. And we can help them with that. But you can see the use of funds is important. When it gets to the maximum amount, there really isn't a maximum amount. Now, some lenders will have a maximum that they'll loan. And if we're going to do an SBA loan, SBAs will tap out around 5 million, but that doesn't mean that we can't also use non-SBA lenders. So, for example, when you look at the larger capital raises, they may either use a bank consortium, so there's multiple lenders coming in helping fund it, and I'll give you an example of one in just a second, or we might even want to bring in some equity money. So instead of debt, which has to be paid back, we can bring in equity capital. Doesn't have to be paid back. But let's look at an example of a very large deal through a consortium. So this is for one deal. I'm going to show you the breakdown, but it's not different businesses going after different loans. It's an example of how a consortium can come together. So on this one capital raise, part of it was a secured loan. I know a lot of you are adverse to that, but 6.5 billion. Yes, that's right. Billion, not million, not thousand, billion. 6.5 billion was through a secured loan, 500 million through revolving credit, which is what we're talking about here. And then we were able to see 3 billion unsecured. So this is for one capital raise. So you can see if we're going to go after larger amounts, it could be broken across multiple lenders because they just may not want to take that much risk themselves. All right, Eric's asking who were the lenders on this, and I'm more than happy to be transparent. So we had multiple lenders. We had Bank of America was involved. We also had Barclays. So some of these you will have heard of, some of them you may not have, but these were the specific lenders involved with this deal. In addition to Barclays, let me see, there was Mitsubishi, and I know you may not be familiar with some of these. MITSUBISHI, UFJ was also part of the consortium. BNP Paribas. There's two more, Mizuno, MIZUHO, and then the last one in that consortium was Societe Generale. Yeah. So these were the actual 6 lenders that did this very large capital raise. So none of them wanted to take on the full amount, but through the consortium, that was the total capital raise. So again, people will come to us and say, well, how much can I borrow? Well, how much do you qualify for, right? Because it's not Monopoly, it's not Yahtzee, right? We actually have to qualify for this, and that's where we come into play with helping. Because theoretically, if you had a client or prospective client come to you, DeAndre or Daryl or Corinthian, if they already had this, they probably could do this on their own although some of the lender relationships we have would still add value. But most of the people that you and I work with, they're going to need assistance with one before we go to number two. All right, so our general resources and support, we talked about QuickCash yesterday. Someone wanted me to put that up on the screen. So 509pacific.org, that's where you can get the QuickCash, which is not our topic today. If you're not a reseller, but you want to be a reseller, you can become one. Just email us. No fees to pay to be a reseller, no contract to sign. You pick your own pricing, but most of you are making 5,000 on the front end of each client that enrolls either in the Shelf Corp or Business Accelerator. And then we charge a flat 10% performance fee, which we split with you on the back end. So real easy to be a reseller. If you need to talk to someone, call Madison. We're all busy. I know you're very busy. This what we're delivering, it's real, it's legal, it's needed. We're very, very busy. That's not a problem, but I suspect you're very, very busy. If you're not very, very busy, we need to fix it, right? Because if you're not busy, I suspect you're probably not making a lot of money. And being a reseller, going back to this isn't about some get rich quick. We're not charging you where you pay some money and we're going to help all your dreams come true. There's none of that bullshit. It's free. There's no contract to sign. We'll send you the reseller packet, and then it's up to you, right? Because you're smart, you're motivated, you're an effective communicator. You can either go help clients or not. I mean, it really doesn't matter to me. It's up to you. But if you do, you can earn a great income. And that seems to be what Calvin's asking. So let's go back to that. So we've covered this in other calls, but income breakdown for resellers. So your front end is determined by you. How much do you want to charge them? How much do you want to mark up either the Shelf Corporation or the Business Accelerator? Most of you are marking it up by 5,000. So that's what you're making up front today. Now, again, most of our resellers do other things. You take Mr. Certain, who's on the call, or Jocelyn. These are professionals that are accountants, attorneys. They're doing other things. So this is a side gig. So our average reseller just does one deal a day, one deal per day is average. So this is a side gig. This isn't meant to replace. Take Kenneth Brock, who's on here. We're not able to throw enough money at Kenneth probably to replace the money he's making, but we can get him 5,000 up front for referring each client. And assuming that he's average, then you're doing that 30 times a month. So the average reseller is making around 150,000 on the front end. Nothing get rich quick, nothing to write home to mom about, but it's a good side income. And then the bigger money, of course, is the 5% on the back end after the client gets funded. Obviously, how much that is depends upon how much they're funded. Our typical client is going after $1 million. Some could be going after more, some could be going after less. But if you're making 5% on $1 million, then you're looking at 50,000 per deal. So nothing outrageous. Probably for a lot of you, you look at the money that Jeff's making currently or Dominique's making. I realize we're not going to change your tax bracket, but it's a good side income. So hopefully that answered your question about how you make money. You pick how much you make on the front end. You always make 5% on the back end. And then if you want to access the past trainings, that was a question that someone had earlier I didn't get to. It's all up on YouTube. All right, so let's go through questions, comments, concerns. So Dominique's got a good one. So let's go back and it fits with what we were saying up here. So Dominique and everyone else. So we agreed in Funding 101 that there are two phases, right? So there's actually two contracts. Let's even be more specific. Two contracts. One contract is with you. If you're a reseller, We've provided you editable versions of both agreements, the Shelf Corp and the Business Accelerator. You can change the pricing and put your information on it, but you're determining how much you make up front. Remember, that was number one. You're determining how much you make per unit, and you're determining the volume. All I can tell you is what's average. And frankly, I'd encourage you just be average. You don't need to be an all-star like Leonard. You don't need to be an all-star like Rod. Just be average. An average reseller does one deal a day. They make 5,000 up front per deal. They do that about 30 times a month. So if you were to just be average, I think you'd agree it's a good side income. Okay, but going back to Dominique's question. So we agree we have two different phases, two different contracts. This contract is with you. This contract is with us. So they're contracting with you to buy the Shelf Corp or the Business Accelerator using the template that we provide you for free when you become a reseller. And then when they're ready to go to funding, we send them an agreement and an application. We copy you on it. So one of the confusion points that people can have is it's exactly this. They'll want to combine these two. These are not one. These are two different phases. These are two different contracts. One contract's with you, one contract's with us. And if you look at it that way, then it makes sense. Why do we break it down into two phases? Because when we did it all in one, we'd have people that had false expectations. They would sign up and they're like, okay, well, I signed up. I'm ready for my $1 million. Well, it's like, but dude, you're not fundable yet. We've got to go through and either get the Shelf Corp to you or go through the Business Accelerator process, which takes 4 weeks normally. So now we clearly established with clients, these are two separate steps. And frankly, they can do one step without the other. They can come to you and buy a Shelf Corp. They don't have to use our funding, or theoretically, they could use our funding and not get a Shelf Corp. Okay, hopefully that helps, Dominic. When you split those two apart, then I think everything makes sense. So obviously you need to be familiar with the two agreements, right? One agreement when they're buying the Shelf Corp or Business Accelerator from you, and then one agreement when they're doing funding with us. All right, Ben's asking about personal credit and its impact. We do not care about personal credit. Why? Because we know a lot of entrepreneurs have shitty personal credit, and it's actually one of the deliverables. So Ben, if you look at your agreement that you have as a reseller, whether it be the Shelf Corp and or the Business Accelerator, we know a lot of these people have shitty credit, and we've built in free assistance. So no, we don't have to worry about them having too low of credit to be successful. We know that that's a common issue and it's addressed, just like collateral. We know a lot of these people don't have collateral. Well, that's okay. We built it in. So yeah, you don't need to filter people because of credit worthiness. Joe says he's not seen us sharing the slide. So that'd be kind of sad if we're 24 minutes. Are you all not seeing this shared screen here that has a big 509 circle in the middle and the notes down the right-hand side? Does anyone see that? I'd be amazed if none of you seen it and we spent, yeah, thanks, Samuel. So sorry, Joe, I'm not sure what's happening on your end, but I'm sharing the screen. All right, and again, we're operating at partial capacity. Bad weather last night, power went out, power came back up, internet didn't come back up. So we're actually working off a hotspot off my fucking cell phone, if you can believe that, because we're waiting for the internet to come back up. That's horrible. Okay. Let's see. Jim says he's confused. No out of pocket. Great. So in both of these cases, regardless, Jim, if someone signs up for the Shelf Corp with you or the Business Accelerator, there's no upfront cost. Let's put that in writing. Let's make it capitalized. No upfront cost. Now, to you, Jim, and to those of you that have plenty of disposable income, that's not a real sales pitch. What I see in general, forgive me for saying this, is successful people expect to pay for services. Broke people want free, 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 free. And I think it's just some ways of subconsciously trying to justify that they're broke, but it's not a barrier in life. But regardless, we don't charge anyone an upfront cost for the Shelf Corp or the Business Accelerator. We had a discussion, my memory's horrible, a day or two ago, where we went through step by step by step. And so you can go to our YouTube channel, Jim, and it's like a checklist that's described on the page. And what you'll see is step by step. So we finance the cost of the Shelf Corp or the Business Accelerator. So let me use an example. So we'll give an example both ways. So, Jim, when we went and bought the Lamborghini as a business automobile, I'm not bragging about it. Any of you can do the same thing, but we did have out-of-pocket cost because the car cost a lot more than 190,000, but we couldn't get a loan for more than 190. That's as much as they were willing to loan on one business automobile. So that's an example of out-of-pocket cost. However, when we bought the other company vehicle, the Porsche 911 Carrera T, we were able to finance 100% of it, no out of pocket. So have you ever bought a car where you didn't have to put any money out of pocket? Sure, sure. As long as you get good credit, you can usually get those terms up to a certain amount of a vehicle. So that doesn't mean that the car was free, Jim. It just means that it's all financed. And so that's what we offer to do is we send a finance app. Once you have them under contract, we send them a finance app, and then they get financing to pay you plus some fun money. And so then they can go to the club or go on a cruise or whatever. We want to get them enough money so they can pay you and then have some fun money in their pocket. Okay, so let's move on to the next. Reseller marketing program Ainsley's asking about. So I'll add that, I guess, down here. So reseller, no cost, no contract. We said that, and that's true. If you want the reseller marketing program, RMP for short, then that provides the landing page, the e-signature, contracts, the drip marketing, etc. That is not free, never has been. However, you would pay for this, and we literally reimburse you 100% of it when you do your first deal. So optional. I'm not here trying to push it on you, but that's what Ainsley's asking. Now, when we set up the RMP, at that time, we only offered the Shelf Corp, and we didn't have the Business Accelerator. So at this point, the RMP is specifically for the Shelf Corp. Maybe that'll change in the future. Dominique asked, what's drip marketing? That's a great question. So in business development, many people won't make a purchasing decision, even though there's no out-of-pocket cost. We covered that up here, right? There's no out-of-pocket cost. So that removes a big barrier. But not everyone will purchase a Shelf Corp or a Business Accelerator program the first time they heard about it. Normally, the rule of marketing is it takes 5 to 7 exposures for the average person to make a purchasing decision. So with the reseller marketing program, we provide a free landing page. It's linked to your e-signature contract, but specifically, then we do drip marketing to your prospects at no cost to you. So that's done both via text and via email. And so that increases your conversion rate. So drip marketing means automated subsequent communication with your prospects to educate them and motivate them to enroll. Hopefully that helps. All right, so I guess the only other question I have here that we have time for is Dominique asking, About the cost. Yeah, so you determine the cost. So I love it when some of you will ask me, well, how much does the client have to pay for the shelf corp? I have no idea. You set the price. Or some of you will say, well, how much does a client have to pay to get the business accelerator? I have no idea. You set the price. That's the role of the reseller is you get to pick the price that you want to sell, and that determines how much you're making on the front end. Most of you are marking it up 5,000. Most of you are doing a deal a day. And so this is what an average reseller's month looks like. Obviously, if that's average, half of you are better than average and half of you are below average, but this is average. And so that's what I would encourage. I mean, February is coming just about to a close. March is around the corner. Why don't you all just try to be average in the month of March? If we could work together and go help 30 entrepreneurs get funding, if we could put 150,000 in your pocket up front, plus a whole lot more when they get funded, would that not be a successful month? All right. Well, with that being said, if you need anything else, I recommend give Madison a call or come back tomorrow. If you're not a reseller, email us. We can get you set up. If you need QuickCash, it's right here in 509 Pacific, QuickCash. And we'll see you back tomorrow. Have a great day. Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.